I think I have some fun and interesting things to talk about this time. The main thing is some integration with AWS Comprehend, and using that to do some sentiment analysis. And I've added an admin dashboard page so that we can present that analysis of the reviews, and as well as general status of things, so like the status of products and breakdown of the review analysis results. So what is Amazon Comprehend? It's well, you can read it yourself. Does some natural language processing, and the results that you can get from it are pretty useful. In particular, I focused on the sentiment analysis for the work I'm showing today. So we can look at the reviews and determine which are positive, neutral, negative, or mixed. And you might think, well, that's what you have the star ratings for. But actually, if you look at something like the Amazon website itself and look at the 3-star reviews, well, it's not negative, it's not positive, they range from 1 star to 5 stars. Well, actually, if you look in the content, then you see some are quite negative. Rarely would, just cursory analysis, I'm just cursory looking at it, rarely do you see a 3-star rating accompanied with a really positive review. So, but sometimes people will, it seems like maybe they don't want to give it 1 star, so they put some interesting and potentially useful information in a 3-star review that's actually negative. Anyway, there's a lot of potentially useful insights you can get from this, from Amazon Comprehend. And then one thing I think I'll probably use maybe in the next bit of work is identifying personally identifiable information. Obviously, you don't want to have people putting that on a website, a public website, so that those reviews could be flagged. And you can, it's not listed right here, but you can actually search for quote unquote toxic content. So something that might be, disgusting or objectionable, or who knows what the general public's going to put on a website. So those can be flagged. And anyway, we can play around with this, and I'll show you how I did some integration with the Comprehend API. So here's the admin dashboard that I started adding, and I'm showing some information about reviews and products. So we see that we have a total of 4 reviews, and this chart in the middle is from, I've used recharts.js for that presentation. But parenthetically, I found that there might be some issue with the responsive container that recharts likes to use, and React 18, but I didn't look into it too much. I just kind of breezed past that problem. But anyway, if you run into that, I just didn't use the reactive container. So we see the analysis of that Amazon Comprehend did. So we have 1 positive review, 2 negative reviews, no neutrals, and 1 mixed. Then I'm showing results from 2 different ways to kind of do aggregates with DynamoDB. One is a resolver that I guess you could say does a calculation in real time. Basically loads all the in this case all the sentiments from the reviews. Basically, it loads all the reviews, checks the sentiment, and does a count. which can be not very scalable, that way of working with a NoSQL database. It's not trivial to, with a SQL database, it's a trivial thing to get a count of this or that, but not so much with DynamoDB. So I have another method that I'm using for a couple of different things here, which is just to keep a separate tables that track counts of things, that's done by using Lambda functions that listen in on DynamoDB streams, and if it's a relevant thing, then we just update the table. So I'm just showing the two different results. We'll look at the code in a minute. And then here I'm showing that I have a total of 7 products right now, and status of the products break down as active, archived, and pending. And that is that. So previously, in terms of status, I had separate Boolean values for is archived and is active. Then I realized, well, it's actually much more flexible to use something that can take multiple values. So let's look at the data. Let's look at the data schema, which is right here. So we still have product, but now we have product status type. We have a review status type. We have a table for sentiment counts. So using the sentiment as a primary key, and then keeping a count of each one. Similarly with product statuses, just use status as an identifier, as a primary key identifier. And review statuses, this is just, I'm not actually running a function to update this yet, but that's in the future. And then finally, as a sort of catch-all, I have this general aggregates here. Like if I want a count of products or a count of reviews or users, whatever model it happens to be, I can use this table for that information. I think that is that. Another type here for the sentiments. These are the ones that are returned from Comprehend. This is used with the AppSync resolver, which I'll show in a minute. So before I look at the code for the various Lambda functions, let's look at the backend.ts. And I think it was in the previous video that I talked about how there are some issues currently with Amplify Gen 2, where you get what's it called? What is the actual error? It's hang on one second. Yeah, what I was thinking of is the circular dependency issue that seems to certainly affects defining functions. And so that's what I am getting around by defining my functions here in the backend.ts and using this this helper function provided by a user that is in the Discord, the Amplify Discord. So I want to mention that. So let's look at what we have here. So so here we have our various tables, sentiment counts, product statuses, review statuses. So we got that. Then we have the various event sources, so the tables. So we set up an events. The review table is an event source. The product table is an event source. It already was, actually. And then the various Lambda functions like detect review sentiment Lambda are getting that as an event source. Passing in different useful environment values. This stuff is pretty self-explanatory, I think, or at least it follows the pattern of things we've done before. And again, the link to the repo is in the description, so you can take a look at that. Let's take a look at some of these functions. So here's the handler for the detect review sentiment. And we're importing the various functions from Comprehend. And before doing any of the other things, checking sentiment or using the other features that Comprehend provides, you have to know the language. So that's what we do here. We just pass in the text and get the language from it, get the language code. I have a function here for detecting the sentiment. Which is going to look like that. I'll post a link to the Comprehend documentation in the description, but basically you get the various sentiments and some kind of score, some kind of confidence score. And then in the review itself, that's where I'm storing the values for the sentiment. So what the sentiment is. I mean, there's an overall sentiment, and then there's a breakdown of the percentage values associated with each one. Not percentage values. There's some kind of scoring. So you can look at that and maybe fine-tune your own code, your own app makes conclusions based on that analysis. Here we're insert and modify events. So anytime we create a new review or modify a review, we're going to redo the analysis. I mean, that could be fine-tuned a little bit too, because someone might just change the rating, but just for simplicity's sake, just anytime there's a change in a review, I reprocess it. It's pretty straightforward. As I said, you can look directly at the code. The text is just the title and the content of the review, like the body of the review. So I'm just concatenating those values and passing them in to Comprehend and getting an analysis back. For keeping the various counts of things, here's an example of just keeping an aggregates. So right now I'm focusing on review table, product table, and whenever there's an insert or a remove, then we update our account. Pretty straightforward. We're just we have a function to increment or decrement. So this increment value is either going to be 1 or -1, corresponding to insert or remove. And it's also storing an updated at and a created at value. Here's another one, update sentiment counts. So it's overall count of the various sentiments. So here's if the sentiment changes, we need to decrement the previous sentiment, if there was one, and increment the new one. If there's a remove event from the review table, then that's obviously going to affect the count. Again, it's pretty straightforward. And the update statuses is very similar. Doing a similar kind of thing. Just keeping account of the statuses of products and reviews. Pretty straightforward. And as I mentioned, I did make an AppSync JavaScript resolver to count sentiments, so you could get the sentiment count on demand. That is a way to go. Is one way to go, but I think that it's potentially not that scalable. Is the reason people don't, or the reason you might not use this event. If you can, since we have DynamoDB streams available, you can simply just keep an ongoing count, and then you don't have to do this this scan, which you would have to, let's say on a user-facing page you wanted to show the total number of products or the total number of reviews. You would have to run this again and again, and in a very large, if you had lots of records, then it could be a costly thing to figure out, or a costly thing to run. But it is an option. Usually my videos, I think, are a little bit too long, but I think that's all I have to say for this one. I think next time around, there's two things on my mind. One is to use a little bit more of Amazon Comprehend and to personally look for PII, personally identifiable information and toxic content in reviews. The other thing that I've been putting off is automated testing. And I think that I can't put that off anymore. And that's probably what I will focus on for the next episode, next stab at this. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments. I'll provide a link to the Amplify Discord, and what else? AWS Comprehend documentation. I think that's the main stuff. There was one bug I ran into that might be helpful for you to know. it only affects building using the Amplify sandbox, and it was fixed by updating the AWS CDK package to 2.6 something. It was a problem that it was very hard to, it seemed to fall in a pattern. I would add, I added something to the schema, the data schema, and actually it was just a table like a previous table, so there was nothing different about it. It's just a different table, and it caused an error that something like function ID. I probably have the text for that. Wait 1 second. This one, if you run into an error when you're in from your returned by your Amplify sandbox, it says something about CloudFormation deployment has failed, caused by deployment fail, missing required parameter, missing key, required key, function ID, and params. That can be fixed by updating the AWS SDK. Let me get it right. Yeah, AWS CDK to at least 2.159, and that fixed that. So yeah, let me know what you think. Any questions, any ideas, just let me know, and I'll see you next time. Take care.